Hello, thank you for watching. You're watching Esther from Stampin' Star Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in the UK. Today I've got for you about a 2-hour card making session, which is thankfully edited right down for you. I was doing this on social media and I decided not to waste the video and to show you what I've made. This was a special card for my parents' 45th wedding anniversary, so I'm using Petal Palette and the matching die set to go with it, and going in with Night of Navy and the blend pens to colour in these roses. As you can see as we go along, although I thought the roses were going to be the main feature, they don't actually end up being the main feature of this card. So I'm just picking up the colour from the stamp to use to colour that in. I wanted the birds to be in opposite directions, so I used the mirror image technique with the Silicone Mat and using a block just to give a nice flat surface or even surface. Using the blend pens again just to colour in those birds. So I'm making this a Z-fold card, so I have kept a template so I know the different scores that I need. So I'm scoring it at 2 7/8 and 5 7/8. And once you've done your scoring, if you cut it in half, in the UK A4 size, into A6 down the centre with the short side, then you've got 2 pieces of Z-fold cards to use. Using a strip of Night of Navy, which I'm going to use along the bottom of the card, I'm just going to trim that down to about 1 inch. Then put in the same creases that of the measurements as the Z-fold, and this just sits opposite to the card and will open like that. Using these trusty number dies, sadly they're no longer available, they are retired, but they're very handy for these kinds of cards, and just cutting out the flowers. Thankfully you don't have to fussy cut out everything with the matching dies. Now you may be wondering how on earth I'm going to do the opposite bird without a die. Yes, you could fussy cut it, but what I did is to lift the image up to the light and put the die around it, held it in place, ran it through the machine, put it obviously upside down, and thankfully it worked. So it's a great tip to have. I'm using this border type die, using 3 of these pieces to put on the Night of Navy strip to make a feature of it, and using the precision plate. But then I'm also going to come in with my handy die cutting brush because it just pops out all those little pieces. I'm cutting some silver shimmer paper, and I've already backed this with a bit of sticky paper, so that's ready to adhere. Stamping straight on the card with these leaves, and like I said, the roses and everything was going to be the main feature with the silver branches as well, but as I go along this changes. With Z-fold cards, it's a bit different from doing a normal fold, single fold card. You've got to think about which parts people are going to see when they open the card and how things fold and how they work. So it's just a different way of working. If you know me, you know that I like to grunge things up a bit. So I go in with Artisan Textures and using this cool splatter stamp to just splatter around the borders. Still trying to work with those branches that I've cut out and think about where I'm going to position everything. I know in my head where I want it to go, but in reality sometimes things work out differently. So I decided to add some more branches because you would see that back bit on the card. And I wanted the birds to be floating with the numbers. It needed something else. I decided to go in with some flowers, and then had the idea to use these smaller flowers and maybe incorporate those instead. Now I forgot the birds would not float at the back there. I was hoping they would, but I forgot about the positioning of everything. I go in my sponge and using the Night of Navy ink just to add a bit more colour on the outside to draw your eye into the card a bit more. Because this is a fancy card, I decided that I was going to pop up all the flowers with the mini dimensionals. They're the perfect size just to back the flowers, and filling the flowers in with the Wink of Stella, which kind of acted as a watercolour pen in a sense, but with a bit of sparkle. So added a bit of window sheet strips to the numbers, and then somebody had a great suggestion of having the birds on either side rather than next to each other. We did look at the Wobble Action Spring, but it was just too large to use for the birds, so we just stuck with putting them on dimensionals. All the flowers got pearls added to them, and I was debating whether I should add pearls to the roses, but as there are 3 of us daughters, I decided I would add 1 each, 3 pearls for 3 girls. And the birds representing my parents on either side. Give it a bit of splatter with the Wink of Stella, giving it all I've got on this card for this very special occasion. I didn't want to not use the silver branches because it just adds a bit of luxury to the card. So I decided to just literally pull off pieces of the branch and to use it around the border of the card to add a bit of sparkle. So the next decision was just where to put the numbers, whether to have them next to each other or just have them slightly offset. In the end I thought, well, it makes it nicer if it's slightly offset. I put it in the window just to see it in situ. Sometimes cards look very different from on your desk compared to actually on a mantelpiece or on a shelf. And making sure it does actually fit into a standard size envelope, and thankfully it does. I decided to go ahead and decorate a very plain envelope with the same sort of theme as my actual card. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Do give me a thumbs up and subscribe.